Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the news regarding Bud Light is popping off yet again because we are going towards the July 4th weekend. As you guys are very much aware, I'm sure, beer is massive around July 4th. Beer is massive all year round, but it's essentially more massive during the summer and especially during the summer holidays. Now, with that being said, this is going to probably be the biggest drop Bud Light has ever experienced since this whole, boycott began. Now, this particular week that just passed, the week before July 4th, they've experienced their biggest drop in sales yet, and they have officially reached the 30% number, ladies and gentlemen. Like, remember, it's been hovering anywhere between 24 and 28% in a sales drop week to week, but now they have officially reached 30%, and it's probably going to climb even further. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a massive, massive loss for Bud Light, and we're going to dig into it, guys. But of course, before we do, just consider giving this video a like to push us out into the YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing because we're on our way to 25,000 subscribers. It says Bud Light is cheaper than water at some locations because it broke bar rules. Ladies and gentlemen, Bud Light is cheaper than a case of water. That is so unbelievably insulting. I don't even know where to even begin. So the article from Outkick says, you want to get tanked or stay hydrated? Bud Light is making the decision a little bit easier. After months of declining sales and major headwinds, it's finally happened. Bud Light is now cheaper than a case of water. You know, the stuff we can literally get for free from our own house. At this point, it's cheaper than some of the cases of water we're selling in the back. Andy Wagner, the manager of Pennsylvania's Glenn Miller's Beer and Soda Warehouse, told the New York Times. It's just not moving like it used to, he said, adding that sales of Bud Light in his store are down nearly 50% from a year ago. 50% from a year ago for this particular warehouse, ladies and gentlemen. That is fucking insane. I don't know how else to put it other than that's insane. And I'm telling you, it is painful for them right now. We're going to get into it. It says Bud Light went political and now they're paying for it. Never would have thought that beer would be cheaper than water in my lifetime. But Bud Light has seemingly done the impossible. And apparently it's not enough. Wagner said that the cases of Miller Lite, which cost $24.99, were flying off the shelves of his store. They happened to be sitting right next to the lonely Bud Light shelf, which Wagner noted cost just $8.99 after the heavily promoted rebate. $8.99 versus $24.99, and the $24.99 one is flying off the shelves. Ladies and gentlemen, that tells the entire story, essentially. Like, I know that there is a lot of virtue signaling articles out there that want to pretend as if Bud Light is this massive, like, magic thing that's just going to pop back up as if nothing happened. It's not, okay? It's just not. There's a reason why they got deranked to number 2. They're probably going to fall to number 3 at this point if it keeps going. But this is what happens when you decide to alienate your customer base. When you do not respect the customer base that you have, the customer base that you have fostered over decades, and then now you want to be shocked that they're gone when you decide to do something absolutely stupid. Of course they're going to leave you. Of course they're not going to want to bother with you. Why would they want to do so? This is just another example of just how bad Bud Light is completely alienated their customer base. And you know what? They deserve everything they're getting, and we're going to get into just how bad it is. So it says, I've seen longtime Bud Light customers trying other beers, he said. If they find something they like, they may not come back. And we've seen this. We've seen this happen. They've been hovering at 20 to 28%, roughly, give or take, sales loss week after week after week after week in comparison to last year, and it hasn't slowed down. People have moved on. Now, not everybody, okay? Just to be clear and to be fair, not everybody. They haven't lost everybody, but they've lost such a massive chunk that they're going to have to restructure their company and how it operates. They're going to have to figure out how are they going to operate with that much less money. We're talking billions of dollars, people. Billions of dollars that they've lost, not only in market value, but in sales as well. They've lost so much money that there's no way they could ignore it now. They've actually come out publicly and said certain things, like calling Dylan Mulvaney a crisis, for example. They've come out and publicly said that. They weren't saying that before. So yes, they are going to have to figure out how to restructure their company to make it profitable again with 20 to 30% less money. It says, and for those of you who foolishly believe the virtue signaling Washington Post from earlier this month, the one that opined that the Bud Light decline was simply because Americans were tired of drinking beer, think again. It's not that they stopped drinking beer, Wagner said of his customers. They just stopped buying Bud Light. and that they have. Now, I remember that article. I actually made a video on that particular article because it was one of the most stupid virtue signaling articles I have ever seen in my entire life. Washington Post actually tried to come out and say that Americans don't like beer, essentially. I laugh now just thinking about it. Like, how could you write that article with any sort of serious tone like they did is beyond me. I actually find that to be fairly impressive that they managed to pull that off. But again, it's one of the funniest things I have ever seen and read, and the video did very well. So thank you, Washington Post. But still, it was the most ridiculous thing that they even tried to make that into some sort of fake truth. But let's talk about their sales loss, because that's the most important thing. So it says sales have tanked nearly 30% this week in the beer's worst week since the boycott began, and things appear to be getting worse heading into the 4th of July weekend. The folks over at Anheuser-Busch are also feeling it from all sides. You got Dylan Mulvaney calling out Bud Light for not supporting him enough. You've got gay bars in Chicago pulling the stuff because they don't feel supported enough. Of course, you've also got sane beer drinkers pissed because they got political in the first place. That's also known as breaking bar rules in the beer industry, Wagner said. No politics, no religion, he said. And I agree. I agree with that. Like, if you are selling a product and that product is not based in politics or religion to begin with, why would you want to bring up two of the most controversial topics guaranteed? You know what I mean? Like, you don't go to family dinner and talk politics and talk religion, because if you do, chances are there's probably going to be an argument. I'm just being real with you, right? Like, we've all experienced that at some point in our lives. So you don't want to do that when you're trying to sell a product that is supposed to bring people together. Beer is supposed to bring people together. It always has, and it always will, right? It's supposed to be that product that's supposed to make a party lit. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you don't really get that option. You don't get that option when you try to then virtue signal with that particular product to one political side of the party. And don't try to tell me it's not political, because you want to say, oh, trans people are in politics. Yes, they absolutely are, because they've made themselves that, okay? Like, the LGBTQ activist community has made themselves that. So now you are going to be tied to that because you wanted to virtue signal to that particular party. It's not like you just virtue signal to gay people in general. No, no, no. You picked Dylan Mulvaney, a trans grifter that everybody knows is faking his ass off just to make as much money as humanly possible. You chose to use him for this particular advertisement because you knew what was going to happen. You knew that you were going to get a lot of hate for it, but you thought that this hate was not going to amount to anything. You somehow thought that this hate was going to amount to increased sales. You somehow thought everything other than the logical thought, which is, hey, we probably shouldn't partner with someone that a lot of people hate. A lot of people, especially in our customer base. But again, that goes back to understanding who your customers are. And I think they do know who their customers are. They were just hoping that they could get rid of them and get all the wokies to drink their beer. Well, guess what? Now you just figured out, the hard way, mind you, that the wokies do not support what they say they would support on Twitter. In real life, they don't got the money to do it, and even if they did, they're not going to give it to you. They're going to keep it to themselves because they're selfish, and they're going to go support what everybody else supports, because at the end of the day, people don't actually buy into this shit in public, okay? Not many of them do. The ones they do, they're the ones that are off on like college campuses doing some bullshit like protests or something like that because they're unemployed and got nothing better to do. But most people online, even if they say they support this nonsense, hey, Slay Queen, all this other stuff, privately, if you speak to them, I guarantee you they would call all of this crazy. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this particular video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.